Hello, everyone. Welcome to Durrett's Take. Let's get started. That was a very exciting game that we had last night between Memphis and Golden State. And congrats to Steph Curry on the amazing season that he had. But even bigger congrats to Memphis for getting back to the playoffs. Unfortunately, you're going to lose to the Jazz, but at least you're back there. It's just baby steps. So even though there's 16 teams that are still continuing on in the playoffs right now, the rest of the teams, are obviously home. So what I'm going to do is now that the NBA season is over for 14 teams, I'm going to go over my summary for what each of these teams can do to try to be relevant again. So let's get started in the Eastern Conference with Detroit, who had the worst record in the East. They extended Coach Casey's contract next year, which that kind of surprised me. Just because he hasn't had a winning record since he's taken over, and I don't feel like he's going to turn around that quick. I just basically don't see a quick turnaround here. So you're not necessarily going to be relevant next year, but you can take the necessary steps to be relevant again within the next couple years, type of thing. So I like that they got Jeremy Grant in the offseason. He's a good player, but he can't be your number one. Now the Pistons should have a top 3 draft pick, so whether they can hope to get like a Cade Cunningham or from Oklahoma State or Jalen Suggs from Gonzaga in the draft. And that won't obviously immediately solve your problems, but at least you can, get a point guard in the future you're excited about, you could build around for the next 3-4 years to try, put enough pieces around it. Next is Orlando. Orlando's interesting here because they are obviously going full rebuild since, they traded away a bunch of players at the trading deadline. Unlike some teams, though, unlike some teams, this is going to be like the Philadelphia 76ers back a couple years ago, where they called it the process, and they had 3 or 4 years, of getting like basically the number one pick and just building like that. Now they do have point guard Cole Anthony at the future that I do like, but yeah, they just need to draft a whole bunch of other players, and then if they can sign for like a good solid veteran like DeMar DeRozan or something like that to come down there, play for them, and help kind of that young team learn on the fly, that'd be good for them. So that's the kind of direction I see them going. Cleveland. I like Colin Sexton. I'm not sure if he'll ever be a number one for a good franchise, but at this point, since Cleveland's pathetic, you might as well try to build around him and see what you truly got. I know they have Darius Garland as well, but I'm not sold on him quite yet. And if the chips fall where they may, they can pick up a top 5 pick, which is good, and get a good forward to pair along with Jarrett Allen, who's a young good center, or good small forward in the draft. And then they obviously they need to trade Kevin Love, and I think Larry Nance Jr. as well at some points. They can get additional picks to kind of help build around there. So we'll see if they do that or not. Next is Toronto. This one's interesting because you have Siakam, VanVleet, Anunoby, who was in and out with injuries all season. You have Bashir, who ended up being an excellent big man role player, and then you acquired Gary Trent Jr. at the trade deadline, which is good, and that's a good foundation right there. Now let's assume Kyle Lowry is leaving in free agency. So what the Raptors need to do is to get an all-star, preferably a superstar, but since it's Toronto, let's just say all-star to join them, because if they can get that, then they can, maybe that's DeMar DeRozan returning to Toronto, maybe. If they can do that or something like that, then, maybe you can get yourself back in the playoffs there. Something that's interesting, though, is that if the Clippers don't make the Western Conference Finals, or for some reason even get bounced out in the first round, Kawhi might say, okay, that's it, I'm leaving. And he might be willing to go back to Toronto, which then might make Kyle Lowry come back, which Kyle Lowry wants to be in Toronto. He wants to retire there, so he definitely wants to be. It's just a matter of, he doesn't want to go through rebuild type of thing. So if Kyle Lowry decides to go back there, Kyle Lowry can return, then you have most of the same guys there, and then you can try to, run it back, basically. That's the route I would go, but if they don't get Kawhi, just get some type of also like DeRozan or something, and just kind of go from there. Chicago's next. I thought acquiring Vucevic would get them to the playing games, with Levine being out due to COVID protocols that stopped them from doing that. Also, that even despite him and Vucevic playing, there's still a glaring problem. The Bulls need a defender who can score. This is where I think if you get Kyle Lowry from Toronto, that would be a big step. and Culver kind of fits that mold of Chicago, if you will, that tough and gritty type of player. And he can bring that veteran presence and veteran leadership for Levine and Vucevic, and that could be enough to get them in the playoffs. Or at least the play game, if not playoffs. Next is Charlotte. Now, this is a team that did not make the playoffs, obviously, and got bounced out pretty handily by Indiana in the playing game. But I'm gonna say on the record right now, if Gordon Hayward did not get hurt and was playing, and LaMelo Ball never hurt his wrist in the season, they would have been in the playoffs automatically, not in a playing game scenario, in the playoffs automatically. So there's not that much to do to get back to be a playoff, contender basically. This is where like if you can go lure like a Tim Hardaway Jr. for the Mavs, a good 6-man finalist, another veteran type player to give those young Charlotte Hornets some buzz, if you will, then that's something you can do. I feel like since there's not a lot of good free agents per se, you kind of have to wait a while or to get that superstar. And until they get a superstar, they're not going to be a title contender. But at least they can get themselves back to being a playoff contender. And if you're a playoff contender, then you're relevant. So there you go. Indiana, they have an interesting choice here. I think they might be in a coaching search again soon, like last year. But we'll see. It's time to blow up the roster, in my opinion. Now, you have Brogdon, who's good, Sabonis, who's good, LeVert, who's good, Turner, who's good, Hawley's good. That's a nice starting five there. And yes, McConnell and McDermott will get bench pieces. But as you saw against the Wizards, a bad Wizards defense, when the starters were out, the Pacers were such a mess. So, I feel like you can go two ways here. You can blow up the roster, like I said, and just get a bunch of draft picks and start your rebuild process. Or if you really want to run it back with them, then get, again, like a DeRozan or Tim Hart, if he's fine with being a 6-man or something like that, or Howard Jr., to come off the bench and give that bench something, give a spark, basically. Because if you can provide, like 15, 16 points off the bench, and that's enough, And then if they can all stay healthy, then Indiana could be back in the playoff mix. Okay, so now for the Western Conference teams. So Houston with the worst record overall. Like Orlando, Houston can go into next year knowing that they're going to be fully doing a rebuild. So again, it's like the Philadelphia 76ers process here. They already acquired a bunch of picks, from trading James Harden. And if I'm Houston, even though John Wall proved he can play to some degree, I don't think I wouldn't want him, being the point guard of my franchise if I'm trying to rebuild. I would want to start over there as well, so I would trade him, get even more draft picks potentially, and basically did what the Boston Celtics did, and Danny H specifically, just building your team through the draft basically. Oklahoma City. Well, it's clear to know what direction they're going here. There's a reason why they've accumulated so many draft picks over the years, and they still need to trade Al Horford, in my opinion, and get more picks. But you can use those like 20 picks to hopefully strike some gold there and make a team again, basically like you did back when you drafted, KD, Harden, Westbrook. Again, it's going to take a few years, but but they know that's the direction they got to go. And drafting like maybe one of the Mobley twins from USC or something like that, that would be the direction I would go for them in the draft. Minnesota. What's interesting is that the record could fool you here. 23 wins is not great, obviously, but they were a 500 level team with D'Angelo Russell and Karl-Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards. The problem is, Towns was out for a long time due to COVID and had to kind of get back in shape, and then Russell was off and on with injuries, so they weren't never together for the full time. To be honest, what Minnesota needs is a free agent like Chris Paul, CP3, to kind of like build the culture, kind of like show Karl-Anthony Towns, okay, this is how you do it. Show young Edwards, okay, this is how it's done, type of thing. As you saw with Booker in Phoenix, he's able to like help build that Phoenix culture and build Phoenix back into a playoff contender. It's kind of what Jimmy Butler did with his short stint in Minnesota to get them back to the playoffs finally. So I feel like that's the type of player they need to go after. But for some reason they don't, and they kind of stay put for the most part. Then I feel like they could potentially be at least a play-in type of team next year. Sacramento. So what to do here's the question. Personally, I would just move to Seattle and start over as a franchise rather than, but I know they're not going to do that. Personally, I would fire Luke Walton, but they already said they're going to keep him for another year, so that's their choice. And what I would do is I would build around point guard De'Aaron Fox if I were them. If they decide not to do it, though, I could see them doing a full rebuild type of thing. But like I said, I would build around De'Aaron Fox, though. And I would kind of do what the Bulls did. Like trade for like a bona fide all-star Because, for example, if you can trade for like a Domantas Sabonis or something like that, like the Bulls were able to trade for a Vucevic, then that can get you closer to like a playing scenario, finally get you closer to the playoff hunt. Because that's the roster is constructed right now, it's not enough to get you there. New Orleans. I like this roster, so it's a shame once again that they had to miss the playoffs. What New Orleans needs here is for one, the players to be all the players to be healthy because that's been a major problem the past couple of years. But then the other thing here is they need defensive players. Like go trade for like a Marcus Smart or a Patrick Beverley or something like that to kind of give you that veteran presence again for a younger team, and that can play good defense and stuff like that because defense was a major problem for them. So we'll see what they do there. San Antonio. This may come as a shock to you, but I think the next big step here for San Antonio to have success is for Coach Popovich to retire. I know he's one of the greats, but his style of play is not what the NBA is today. They don't take a lot of threes nor make a lot of threes, and you have to in this league to be successful. And, now DeRozan's old and he's in for agency. Yes, DeJounte Murray is good, Line Walker's a good piece, Derek White's a good piece type of thing, but I don't see an all-star on this roster. And if you're Popovich, why settle for mediocrity at best when you could just retire? You've done enough, you got nothing more to prove, just retire. So I think in order to get better, he retires and the Spurs go full tank mode, in my opinion, accumulate good young, potentially future stars like they did, drafting Duncan and Robinson and stuff like that. Next, Golden State. Well, getting Clay back healthy will solve a lot of problems next year for them. However, there are two things that still need to happen for Golden State to be successful again, or specifically title contenders again, because they could make that type of leap if they make the right moves this offseason. Well, one is out of their control, but Draymond Green needs to be hitting north of 30% on his three-pointers. That just needs to happen. If he could hit north of 35 again like he did back, right before KD got there, when you're building that culture there, then that's gravy right there. But at least 30%, just act like you're a threat from three, so that way the finish not sagging off you, because that's where the Warriors are going to be at their best. But then also, I feel like their bench needs improvement. I know they could get young players like Poole or something like that, but I just feel like they need more into like 3-and-D type of guys. Like if they can get PJ Tucker in the offseason or something like that. Something like that is what they need. So we'll see if they do that or not. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for listening to my podcast. Please subscribe to my channel to learn about me. Thank you very much, and y'all have a wonderful day.